Berkshire Hathaway's annual meeting, Tamanna.
Yeah, and are you feeling the same FOMO I'm feeling? Because I'm very jealous of my colleague, Neeraj Shah, who, just to make up for the fact that he's at this wonderful event, we've roped him in on his break and said, Neeraj Shah, since you've crossed this off your bucket list, you listened in person to the Oracle of Omaha, you have to join us at 8:15 on a Monday morning to tell us all about it. First of all, kudos. And how was the experience? Really, that's just my first question. How was the experience?
Magical, Tamanna. I mean, all of us, you, me, Agam, have kind of seen this on television, but just to be there and see him in person, hear from him in person with 40-odd thousand people around was quite magical. The only remiss that I would have, or anybody who's not been there before last year would have, is that there wasn't a Charlie Munger this time around, and there will not be a Charlie Munger at a Berkshire Hathaway AGM ever again. So that was that small issue, if you will. And I mean, in some fashion, if you just see what, the photographs on your screen just show you the participation that came in at the AGM. This was, by the way, me with Guy Spear at 4 a.m. lining up. And by the way, I was late. Had I been at 3 a.m., I would have been the first one into the hall. I was 4 a.m., so therefore I was maybe the number 250th into the hall, and therefore got a seat behind and not quite in the front. But it was magical, to say the least. The energy, the atmosphere, the admirers, and it's not for nothing that it's called the Woodstock of capitalism. This is just such a great value investors summit.
Yeah. So while you have flexed completely, Neeraj, about all the people you've met and all those amazing selfies, tell me about the big headline from the Indian perspective. Of course, not the biggest headline globally, but the fact that he was asked and talked about India. And he said that, yes, we should look at it, but maybe our younger management will. He also talked about, jokingly in the end, that I don't know if I'm going to be here next year. I hope to see you, but I don't know if I'll be here. So the succession plan seems very clear at Berkshire Hathaway, and the focus could now shift to India. Is that a fair assessment?
Partly, yes. And by the way, you guys might have some thoughts as well. So I'd love to hear what you guys thought about it. But two things. One, to this him saying that he may not be there next year. Now, this is something that he's made a habit of saying every time. It just assumes more significance now because Charlie Munger is not there. And suddenly, at the end of the conversation, when he signed off the 6-hour meeting, he signed off by saying that I urge all of you to be here next year, and I hope that I'm here. This time around, a lot of people, including me, felt that, this is important, simply because his best pal is no longer there. And it was I'll just take a quick moment before I give you an answer, Tamanna, to say that it was all about Charlie Munger, this event. I mean, everything that revolved around the AGM had a Charlie Munger imprint to it. And we'll get to that because I'd love to hear what you guys think about it as well. But to your other question about the focus on India, I think it's something that he's been asked intermittently for the last 5 or 6 AGMs. At least 4 of the last 6 AGMs, he's been asked about emerging markets like India. And his response has largely been around this, that there are exciting markets out there. We don't cover them as much. We don't look at all the markets as closely as we do. But at some point of time, we will. There has been some small, minute, indirect participation that Berkshire Hathaway has done, but nothing quite meaningful. At least I thought from the answer as well that it kind of left that it's a great market, presumably, but there's no clear directive from the Oracle of Omaha that India is on the list, in his parlance, at least, in the current context.
Right. Well, of course, on one of the pictures that you did see, and as Neeraj pointed out, was where he was with Guy Spear. Well, for those who don't know, he manages the Aquamarine Fund, a fairly large fund in the US. But Neeraj, I reckon that, a lot of us here would also want to know about other celebrity sightings, potential conversations with them. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of warfare conversations. There was Ramdev Agarwal, there was Dharmesh Mehta from India. I mean, the more notable faces, if you will. Monish Pabrai was there, Guy Spear was there, a lot. Lee Lu was there, which is quite amazing, really. And he was the center of attraction, really, for a lot of people. But I happened to attend an event the day before, hosted by Guy Spear, and which was around what is it that learnings from Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett. And Charlie, in some sense, guys, lives on, right? If you see any of the answers given by Buffett as well, there's this very strong poignant moment wherein when he was giving a reply, an answer to somebody, and he turned to his left to Greg Abel and said that, Charlie, you want to give it a shot, or something like that. Charlie, your turn. Almost forgetting that there's no Charlie Munger next to him. So throughout that meeting, it was an imprint of Charlie Munger out there. And every conversation that we had with people seemed to suggest this, that, how would Warren take it? And therefore, my last point on this particular point, Agam, and again, to every answer that I give, I would love to understand what you and Tamanna think of it. But somebody asked him pointedly that who does he look for advice now that Charlie Munger is not there? And, Warren Buffett, I mean, it's Warren Buffett, really. They don't come any better than that. He mentioned that if I didn't think I could have done it myself, that quote is on your screen. He says that if I didn't think I could have done it myself, I wouldn't have gone thus far. So to some extent, I talked to myself on investments. It was a fitting response from the world's greatest investor.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys thought about it.
So absolutely. So a lot of emotional, stuff there. What I found very, very interesting, Neeraj, for me, when I was seeing all of those highlights and the big takeaway, is the way Warren Buffett looks at AI as a possibility so differently. And that tells you why Warren Buffett is a Warren Buffett. While everyone's figuring out whether you could use AI to sell people more things or get their data, or blah, 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 he's talking about the potential in AI scamming. He's actually saying, if that's something you want to get into, AI scamming is going to be the next level thing. He saw his own video and he got spooked. Yeah. Because you can't tell what's real and what's not.
Tamanna, it's interesting because he kind of sounded off these warning bells of sorts for cyber security and cyber attacks for like 3-4 years in the last 5 as well. And we know how cyber security has grown to be a big business because of this very reason. So it's interesting. And he mentioned that he mentioned that I don't know too much about AI, but still I'll give you my opinion that as much as there are pluses, but there are minuses as well. He heard his own voice and face giving out a response, and that is what got him a bit perturbed, if you will. So twice or thrice in the meeting there were questions asked about AI. You would expect that, and quite interesting Buffett's response. Interestingly though, guys, not a single question, at least none to my memory, on cryptocurrency. It was the hottest thing past 5 years ago. Not a single question out there.
So crypto's out, AI is in. This is the place. You were at the place to I think the mecca of global investment, to get a sense of what the next big thing is. And you just mentioned very briefly in passing, Neeraj, but I wanted to know more about that there were a lot of conversations about war and the outcome of wars and conflicts around the world. So sort of any insights on that? Because this is unfortunately going to continue to be a big industry and revenue generator.
Yeah, no, again, from the answers that Warren Buffett gave and from everybody else around us, by the way, Tamanna, it was something that I, from a perspective of a journalist who's very inclined to know how do people who are looking at investing, thinking about the 2 or 3, potentially 4 geopolitical conflicts, almost everybody seemed to believe that they are taking it in their stride, so they are not really thinking too much about geopolitics at the current point of time. If anything, people are thinking about the elections. People are obviously talking about the US elections a lot more, naturally so, but not as much about the geopolitical conflict, to be very honest. Didn't hear too many people taking that as a big consideration while taking their investment decision. And there are a bunch of value investors out there, as you would imagine.
So all Trumpers there, they're expecting a Trump return, since they're talking about elections?
Okay, let me qualify this. Every Uber driver that we spoke to, we asked them this question. And the response, without getting into the I or the nay, I'm just saying, the response seems to be what the polls currently in the US seems to suggest.
Which is, come on, don't leave us hanging.
A lot of Trump support, I must say, but who knows? We find it difficult. Tamanna, you track politics so closely, right? We find it difficult to or you would probably find it difficult to predict an Indian election.
No, yeah,
let alone
absolutely.
something which is
No,
so
no,
closely fought as the US election.
absolutely. No,
2024.
not asking you to, the stakes are low, right? I mean, you can get away with talking to Uber drivers and getting a sense, at least for you. You still have to come back and vote here. But
yeah, most certainly.
We'll see you back soon. Yeah, we'll see you back soon, Neeraj, and great chatting.
Yeah, looking forward. Raring to come back, Tamanna, to be very honest. But I just, just one last thing, I mean, and it kind of stood out for me as the most important moment. And again, I think maybe Agam's moment might be different from the AGM. Tamanna, your moment might be different. Would love to know what you guys thought. But I thought one of the most important moments from there, from the AGM this time around, the young chap lives in New Zealand asking Warren Buffett that what would you do if you had one more day to live with Charlie Munger? To which, of course, he gave a fairly long answer as well. But I think how he ended, wherein he says that, and this, therefore, in Warren Buffett's words, not quoting him verbatim, but is something to this effect, wherein he goes out and says that you should now start thinking that what would happen and ask yourself, who would you want to spend the last day of your life with? And then figure out how you could meet them tomorrow and then meet them as often as you can. I mean, just every AGM has one or two very important life lessons. They may be very obvious, but when Warren Buffett or Munger used to say them, they used to stand out, mostly Buffett. And this time around was no exception. To my mind, in over 5 hours of that AGM that lasted, at least this was probably the most moving moment for me. In addition to Warren turning to his left and asking and addressing Greg Abel as Charlie Munger, thinking that Charlie Munger was dead. That was probably the most moving thing. This was probably the most pointed life lesson of sorts.
Yeah, superb. The fact that so many people line up to hear a 93-year-old and his words of wisdom and who can still see the future is fantastic. So, yeah, great to hear about your experience, Neeraj, and we'll see you back soon right over here. So enjoy the rest of your holiday.